"We need fresh perspectives for our next launch," she said coldly during my termination. "Someone who understands current market trends. My name is Lucas, 39 years old, former lead product designer at North Trail Gear in Portland, Oregon, or at least I was, until that Thursday morning when Elena called me into her office. Heather from HR was already seated beside her. I'd sensed it coming for months. Ever since Elena took over as creative director, bringing her glossy magazine aesthetic to our rugged outdoor brand, everything I had designed, practical, durable, built for the harshest environments, was suddenly deemed outdated. "Your designs lack the innovation we need moving forward," Elena said, sliding the termination papers toward me, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against the table. Nails that had never gripped a rock or hiked through a muddy trail. I nodded, keeping my face neutral. 7 years of my work had built this company's reputation among outdoor enthusiasts. The Pioneer Series backpacks were my brainchild. The modular jacket system that won 2 prestigious design awards? Mine. But none of that mattered now. I thanked her for the feedback, packed my sketchbooks, unplugged my tablet, and walked out. What Elena didn't know was that I had quietly been developing a portfolio in my spare time. Designs North Trail had rejected, claiming they were too experimental or not aligned with their brand image. Designs I still believed in. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a message from Ethan in product development. This place just made the biggest mistake of its corporate life. I'd learned design at my father's workbench in the garage, where he built custom furniture. He taught me how function determined form. No wasted space, no unnecessary details. Everything had a purpose. I carried that philosophy through design school and into my career. When I joined North Trail, they were struggling. Good products, but poor execution. I completely overhauled their aesthetic from the ground up. The CEO back then, James, understood what I was trying to do. "Make sure it works first, then make it look good," he'd said. "The people who really use our gear will notice." He was right. In 3 years, our sales doubled. Professional adventurers trusted our brand because our products solved real problems. The Pioneer backpack line was so perfectly balanced that experienced guides specifically requested them for extended treks. The adaptive jacket system, designed to adjust to temperature changes, won several awards for innovation. Then James retired, and the company brought in Vivian as the new CEO, who hired Elena from the fashion industry to elevate the brand. Suddenly, everything shifted. Meetings at Arcform had become more about aesthetic direction than performance specs. My designs, once celebrated for their practicality and innovation, were now questioned and sidelined. The newer designers, mostly fresh graduates with sleek digital portfolios but no real-world experience, were assigned the high-profile projects. 3 months ago, I submitted a new concept for a weatherproof collection, pushing the boundaries of what we could do. Elena dismissed it as uninspired, but the following week, I watched in disbelief as she presented strikingly similar concepts to the executive team, credited to Justin, her recent hire from a luxury brand. I fumed. That night, I called Thomas, an old friend and material specialist at Ridgeline Supply, Arcform's largest competitor. After I explained the situation, he asked, "How's your contract looking these days?" "No non-compete," I replied, bitterness creeping into my voice. "James always thought they were unethical." Thomas paused, his voice quieter now. "Interesting. Very interesting." The termination package they offered me was generous: 3 months' salary and extended benefits, a professional courtesy for 7 years of service. I signed the papers without a word and drove home in silence. My apartment felt different that afternoon, smaller, yet somehow more open. I sat at my drafting table, surrounded by sketches of the designs Elena had rejected over the last year. There were 12 collections in total, each one meticulously detailed, each solving a real problem for serious outdoor enthusiasts. Rain tapped against the window as I studied them. I had been designing as if I still worked for the old art form, the one that valued function and durability. But that company didn't exist anymore. It had become something else, chasing trends instead of meeting real needs. At 7 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was Melissa Hargrove, creative director at Ridgeline Supply. "Thomas mentioned you're available," she said, cutting straight to the point. "He says you're the real talent behind ARC's golden years." I stayed silent, letting her words sink in. "Got anything worth looking at?" she continued. "We're planning our fall collection and could use some fresh thinking." I looked down at my rejected concepts, the ones I still believed in. "I might have a few ideas," I replied. "Send them over tonight. If they're good, we should talk." After we hung up, I spent the next 3 hours refining 6 designs, sharpening the presentations without changing the core concepts. At midnight, I sent them off to Melissa with simple notes explaining the functionality behind each one. Then, I went to bed, better than I had in months. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Melissa. "My office, 10 a.m. Bring your contract terms." I showered, dressed in my field jacket and boots, more comfortable than the tailored suits I'd worn at Arcform, and headed out the door. This was a new chapter, and I was ready to write it. I slipped into my office clothes and drove across town to Ridgeline's headquarters. The receptionist greeted me with a smile and led me straight to Melissa's office. Unlike Elena's sleek, minimalist space, Melissa's office was cluttered with material samples, sketches, and prototype gear, chaotic but full of life. Melissa gestured toward a corkboard on the wall where she had pinned printouts of all 6 of my designs. "These solve problems we've been chasing for 2 seasons, she said, her tone confident. She pointed to the centerpiece of the collection. "Especially this one." She tapped a diagram of the modular weatherproof system I designed. It adapted to a range of conditions without sacrificing mobility. "How soon can you start?" "I'm available now," I replied, without hesitation. She nodded once, a determined look in her eyes. "Good, because we're moving fast on these, very fast." For the first time since Elena had taken over at Arcform, I smiled. 1 week into my new position at Ridgeline, I got a call from Peter, Arcform's production manager. We'd worked together for years, solving manufacturing challenges and balancing innovative design with practical production needs. "Tyler, this is unofficial," Peter said quietly. "But things are falling apart. Justin's designs might look good in renderings, but they're a nightmare to manufacture. The materials don't flex the way he thinks they will. The prototype backpacks are coming in 2 pounds heavier than specified." "Not my problem anymore," I replied, though a part of me still cared. Peter continued, his voice low. "Elena's claiming you left the team without proper documentation of your production processes. She's telling leadership you sabotaged the transition." That stopped me cold. I straightened up. "That's a lie," I said firmly. "I know," Peter said, his tone softening. "But she's convincing. Vivian asked me if there was any merit to it." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about moving on. Elena was actively trying to destroy my professional reputation. Against my better judgment, I emailed Vivian, requesting a meeting to clear the air. She agreed to meet for coffee the next morning. The cafe was busy, a neutral space where I hoped we could keep things civil. Vivian arrived 10 minutes late, glancing at her watch as she sat down. "I'll be direct," I said, taking a deep breath. "I've heard Elena's suggesting I deliberately left the team without proper documentation. That's not true. All my files are organized in the shared drive, and I personally trained Justin on my processes before I left." Vivian nodded, her expression unreadable. "She mentioned you might get defensive about this," she said, her tone cold. "Look, Tyler, the outdoor industry is small. I'd hate to see your reputation damaged over this. It's unpleasant." The veiled threat was clear. "Stay quiet, or we'll make things difficult for you. I appreciate your concern, I said carefully, but I'd hate for Arcform to waste production resources on designs that can't actually be manufactured properly. That wouldn't benefit anyone. Vivian's silence stretched between us. There was nothing more to say. I knew where this was headed. I had nothing to prove to her or to anyone at Arcform. The work would speak for itself. Manufactured effectively. Vivian's eyes narrowed slightly. We'll manage our production challenges internally. Thank you. I do hope you'll be discreet about company matters going forward. She turned to leave, her words hanging in the air. As she walked away, my phone buzzed. A text from Melissa. Contracts ready. We want to move fast on your weatherproof collection. I looked back at Vivian's retreating figure. She had no idea what was coming. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived from Arcform's legal department. They were reviewing my employment history over potential confidentiality concerns. The letter cleverly avoided direct accusations, but suggested I might have violated company policies. I showed the letter to Melissa, who immediately handed it off to Ridgeline's legal team. Standard intimidation tactic, their counsel explained after reviewing it. They have no case. The designs you're creating are original, and you didn't have a non-compete clause. They're just trying to scare you into backing down. Should I respond? I asked. No, Melissa said firmly. We'll handle it. That evening, Ridgeline's lawyer sent a simple but devastating reply to Arcform. We have extensive documentation of Mr. Graves's rejected designs during his time at Arcform, including the submission dates and the subsequent dismissals. We'd welcome the opportunity to compare those with your current product development timeline in court. 2 days passed without further communication from Arcform. Then, Peter called again. What did you do? He asked, his voice laced with confusion and concern. Elena had a closed-door meeting with legal, and when she came out, she looked like she'd seen a ghost. I didn't answer. Instead, I let the silence linger. Just watch your back, Peter warned. She's not giving up. 2 days later, Thomas, now transferred to another department, invited me to lunch. We met at a diner downtown, far from both of our company's headquarters. You need to see this, he said, sliding his tablet across the table after we'd ordered. It displayed Arcform's internal marketing brief for their fall collection. Somehow, Thomas had gotten his hands on it. I scrolled through, my heart skipping a beat when I saw the mock-ups. They were my designs, the exact ones Elena had rejected 6 months ago. Now, rebranded as the Elevation series with Justin's name listed as the lead designer. They're planning to launch in September, Thomas said quietly, a somber look on his face. Full marketing push. They've already ordered materials. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Elena had rejected these designs, knowing full well she'd use them later. She just didn't want me to get the credit. Thomas nodded, his face hardening. Looks that way, but here's something else you should know. He took the tablet back and opened another file. I leaned in, bracing myself for what was coming next. Ridgeline is planning to fast-track your collection, Melissa told me, her voice filled with conviction. I convinced the CEO to move up production. We can have your designs on the market by August. I leaned back, absorbing the news. A month before Arcform's launch, that was a game changer. Yes, and with proper attribution to you as the designer, Melissa added, locking eyes with me. But you need to decide now. Once production starts, there's no turning back. Without a second thought, I replied, let's do it. That evening, I called Melissa to officially accept Ridgeline's accelerated timeline. The contract included something Arcform had never offered, royalties on each unit sold featuring my designs, plus creative control over the final production specifications. We're calling it the Summit Series, Melissa explained, her tone confident. And we want your name front and center in the marketing. 2 days later, I signed the paperwork at Ridgeline's headquarters and handed over my complete design files, not just concepts, but detailed production specifications, material requirements, and manufacturing guidelines. When I got home that evening, an email from Elena awaited me in my personal inbox. Tyler, I hope this message finds you well. I was reviewing some of our upcoming designs and realized we might benefit from your expertise in a consulting capacity. Would you be open to discussing this? I deleted it without responding. The following week, I toured Ridgeline's manufacturing facility with their production team. They'd never attempted anything like my modular system before, components that worked independently but were designed to function best as a cohesive unit. The lead engineer, Diane, pulled me aside after the tour. "These designs are revolutionary," she said bluntly, "but they're also complex as hell to manufacture. If we're really going to hit the August deadline, I need you in this facility every day." "Whatever it takes," I replied, my mind already racing. For the next month, I worked 16-hour days, sleeping on a cot in the facility office twice when we tested waterproofing systems. The production team began to respect me when they saw that I understood the practical challenges they faced. Unlike Elena, I didn't dismiss manufacturing concerns as someone else's problem. I worked alongside the team to find solutions. Halfway through the process, I received another email from Vivian. "We should discuss your current activities for your own professional future." Another threat, another attempt to control what they had thrown away. I forwarded it to Ridgeline's legal team without comment and kept working. Ridgeline moved with astonishing speed. Within 3 weeks, they had prototypes of my weatherproof collection. I spent days in their workshop, fine-tuning the details and working closely with the team to make sure everything was perfect. We were on track for the August launch, and I could already feel the momentum building. This time, there was no turning back. I worked directly with Ridgeline's production team, ensuring every specification of the Summit series was perfect. The collection was made up of 5 interconnected products: a modular backpack, all-weather outerwear with removable components, adaptable footwear, ergonomic camping gear, and specialized accessories. Each piece worked independently, but functioned best as a cohesive system, something I'd been trying to get Arcform to understand for years. For the first time, Melissa included me in the marketing meetings, something Elena had never done. She listened when I explained the practical benefits that should be highlighted. "These aren't fashion statements," I told the team. "They're tools for people who depend on their gear in extreme conditions." By late July, whispers began to circulate throughout the industry. Retailers who'd received preview samples of the Summit series were impressed. Online forums buzzed with speculation about Ridgeline's unexpected direction. Then came the call from Peter at Arcform. "Tyler, did you—" He stopped himself, unsure whether he should continue. "Never mind. I shouldn't be asking." "What's happening over there?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. "Vivian saw Ridgeline's preview catalog," Peter said, his voice lowered. "The Summit series is remarkable. Elena's in full panic mode, claiming they stole concepts from us." I didn't respond, keeping my emotions in check. "The thing is," Peter continued, "we both know these aren't stolen from Arcform's current designs. These are your original designs, the ones Elena rejected, right?" "I can't comment on that," I replied carefully, choosing my words carefully. "You don't have to," Peter said. "Your name is on them, clear as day in the catalog, designed by Tyler Graves, former lead designer at Arcform. It's brilliant." The following day, Vivian herself called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was pointed. "Tyler, this is unprofessional. We need to discuss this situation immediately." Instead of responding, I drove to Ridgeline's headquarters for the final product launch meeting. The marketing campaign was ready, and the manufacturing lines were set. In 2 weeks, the Summit series would hit specialized retailers nationwide. 1 month ahead of Arcform's planned launch of the eerily similar Elevation series. The night before our launch, I couldn't sleep. 7 years at Arcform, countless prototypes, hundreds of sketches. All that work had led to this moment, not the way I'd expected, but maybe the way it needed to happen. At 5 a.m., restless and unable to stay still, I drove to a trail outside the city. It was the same trail where I had tested many of my early Arcform designs. Dawn was breaking as I hiked to the ridge, the cool morning air filling my lungs. I stopped at the top, watching the sun rise over the horizon. The journey, the struggle, all of it felt like it had finally come full circle. The road ahead was clear, and this time it was my vision that would take the lead. The air was cold and damp, exactly the conditions my weatherproof system was designed to handle. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. A text from Melissa. "It's live. Website just went up. First orders already coming in." I stood on that ridge, watching the sun rise, feeling a strange mix of vindication and sadness. I hadn't wanted it to end this way with Arcform. I'd given that company everything I had, but they chose Elena's vision over mine, style over substance. Now the market would decide which approach was right. By the time I hiked back to my car, I had 17 missed calls from unknown numbers, outdoor journalists, industry bloggers, and gear reviewers all trying to get the story behind Ridgeline's surprising new collection. Among them, one message from Elena. "You've made a serious mistake." I took a deep breath, then called her back. When she answered, I said, "No, you did." The Summit series launched on August 12th. By noon, Ridgeline's website had crashed twice from the overwhelming traffic. Their customer service lines were flooded with retailers trying to increase their orders. I watched it all unfold from Melissa's office as outdoor magazines and gear reviewers published glowing advanced reviews. Revolutionary, game-changing, sets a new standard. My name appeared in every article. 3 days after the launch, Outside Magazine ran a feature comparing the Summit series to leaked images of Arcform's upcoming Elevation series. The headline said it all: "Separated at birth, the curious case of two identical product lines." The article didn't directly accuse Arcform of theft, but it raised serious questions about the timeline, especially since I had designed both collections, while Arcform was crediting Justin for their version. Outdoor forums exploded with speculation. Industry insiders who knew me from trade shows connected the dots immediately. Social media flooded with side-by-side comparisons and pointed questions about intellectual property. Then Vivian called again. This time, I answered. "This is completely unacceptable," she began, her voice sharp and unyielding. "You've deliberately undermined our company." "I designed products for a company that hired me to do exactly that," I replied calmly. "Products you're now selling under someone else's name." "We'll need to discuss legal options," she threatened. "That would be interesting," I said. "I have emails from Elena rejecting these exact designs 6 months ago. What would a court make of the fact that you're now producing them with someone else's name attached?" A long silence stretched between us. "You should have valued what you had," I added quietly. "Good luck with your launch." The following week, Arcform made an announcement. They were postponing the release of their Elevation series indefinitely. The weight of their failure was undeniable. Industry analysts quickly recognized it for what it was, a retreat. By October, the Summit series had shattered all of Ridgeline's previous first-quarter sales records. My royalty checks reflected the success, already exceeding my annual salary at Arcform. Melissa, seeing the value I brought to the table, promoted me to design director, giving me a team of 6 designers and full creative control over our next 3 seasonal collections. Thomas, who had been in materials, transferred to join my department as technical advisor. Meanwhile, Arcform released a hastily redesigned collection that bore little resemblance to my work. The reviews were lukewarm, and their stock price dropped 8% the following quarter. That winter, at an industry conference in Denver, I ran into Elena. She was alone at the bar, nursing a drink. As I walked past, she stopped me. "Congratulations on your success," she said, her voice cold and devoid of warmth. I nodded, saying nothing. "You could have stayed and fought for your designs," she added, her eyes narrowing. "Why didn't you?" I paused, considering her words. "Some places don't deserve the fight," I finally replied. She flinched slightly, then quickly composed herself. "Vivian's stepping down next month. The board asked me to take over temporarily." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Good luck," I said, and I meant it. The industry needs strong companies. 6 months later, an unexpected package arrived. It contained all my original sketchbooks from my time at Arcform, along with a handwritten note from Peter. "These belong to you. Elena's gone. Just thought you should know." I opened one of the sketchbooks to a concept I'd designed 3 years earlier, a modular tent system for extreme weather conditions. It was something I'd never shown Elena. That evening, I called Melissa. "I've got an idea for our winter collection," I said. By the following spring, Ridgeline's stock value had doubled. Arcform announced they were restructuring under new leadership, but I didn't pay much attention. I was too focused on designing what came next. Sometimes, late at night, I think about my years at Arcform. Not